Hey everybody, good morning. Hope you're doing well. Coming to you here from Namrag Farms. There's my sheep back there. They're on their morning feast of hay, enjoying the feast set before them at the table. I hope you're having a very blessed morning. I want to talk to you a little bit more about that knucklehead that we talked about Monday. And yes, she's not back there. She's way over there somewhere hiding with her lamb. But anyway, 4 years ago when I got into sheep, I went in all the way. I got 120 head with a friend of mine, and I was going to raise these sheep, and I had a couple hundred acres of my grandfather's that I put them on, and 120 sheep now. As you can see, I'm only down to a handful, and there's a reason to that. I'll tell you about it another day. But when I had those 120 sheep, in that group were several knuckleheads, but there was one that really stood out. One that I always noticed, and I was like, man, I wish she wasn't a knucklehead. I'd like to hang out with her. I like to spend time with her. I like for her not to be afraid of me. But she made her choice. She kept standing out at a distance. That's the way it was. But having 120 sheep on a big farm, I decided as a shepherd it might be wise to have some help when it came time to get them in. So I went out and found me a Border Collie. He was a partially trained Border Collie, and the gentleman I got him from said, you're going to have to work this Border Collie just a little bit more. He's got the basics down, but here, you're going to have to work him. Let me show you how. He says, get a couple of sheep in your pen, a couple of days a week, 3 or 4 sheep, and you give him his commands. He'll work those sheep to you, and before long, you take him out, and he'll bring them all in. So that's what I did. I kept working on that, and the way that I chose the 3 or 4 sheep that I would use on any particular day was I'd call them in, feed them a little corn, I'd stand off to the side, and who was ever left, the last 3 or 4 that were still eating, that's who got worked that day. On this one particular day, guess who was left in the pen? Oh, Knucklehead. Yep, there she was with a couple other sheep, and I closed up the gate, and I started to work my dog. I went off to one corner, and the sheep, of course, went as far away as they could because Knucklehead led them over there, as far as they could get away from me, and which is good, I'm working my Border Collie, right? So send him out, come by, away to me, and he's doing his circles back and forth, back and forth. And the sheep come to me, and his job as a Border Collie is to drive the sheep to the shepherd. That's his only purpose, his only goal. That he wants to please the shepherd, and he knows driving the sheep to the feet of the shepherd pleases that shepherd. So he'd drive them to me, and then I would pull him off. The sheep would run. I'd send him back out, work him again. I'd pull him off. The sheep would run away. About the 3rd or 4th time, though, that morning, I'd worked him, and the sheep, they're panting. They've been worked. They've been running. But they're behind me, between me and the fence, and the dog, I laid him down and said, just down and hold, which means he's going to keep his position and make sure the sheep don't go by him. So I'm congratulating him. Good job, Ben. Way to go. Then suddenly, I felt something leaning against my leg. And I looked down, and what do you know? It's that old Knucklehead. A little bit surprised, I put my hand down and I started to pet her, and she didn't move. She didn't go anywhere. And I said, hey, sweetheart, how are you doing this morning? It's good to have you near me. Then I pulled my dog off and the sheep ran. And then I worked him again. This time, the sheep were a little bit quicker to get to my feet, and that Knucklehead leaned against my leg, panting. So I'd let him go, and I said, I'm going to work him one more time. So I sent my dog back out, and he did it again. But this time, that Knucklehead didn't wait for him to start working. She ran to me, and she leaned against my leg. And I laid that dog down, and as long as that dog sat there, that sheep didn't leave my side. And I sat there and said, hey, sweetheart, how you doing? Good to see you. In that moment, the Good Shepherd taught me a lesson. He said, Ray, I've got a couple of Border Collies because I've got some Knucklehead sheep like you who are either afraid of me, maybe you're just too stubborn to come near me, or maybe you just think you don't need me. But I long in my heart to have a relationship with all my sheep. So I have some Border Collies. They're called circumstances. They're called trials. You'll find the ultimate Border Collie if you look in Job chapter 1 and 2. I highly recommend you go check it out. But the Good Shepherd, he even tells us, both in Matthew 23 and Luke 13, he longs to be with his sheep. He longs to have a relationship with his sheep. in those particular verses, he's talking about chickens. He uses an analogy of chickens, which we do have some on here on the farm. But he said, O Jerusalem, how I long to gather you in like a chicken gathers in her brood and hold you underneath my wings. And he looks at his sheep and he goes, how I long to be with you. But he said, Ray, as the good shepherd, I'll use anything as my border collie because I long to be with my sheep. I long to have them at my side. So I will send circumstances, I will send trials, I will send tribulations, and I will even send the ultimate border collie himself, if that's what it takes, to bring in the scared, to bring in the stubborn, to bring in the rebellious, to bring in the hard-headed, the knuckleheads like you, Ray, because I long to have you at my side and reach down and say, good morning, sweetheart. It's good to see you. Y'all go enjoy the shepherd. We'll see you real soon.